Mm. All right. Let's continue.
Verse 7. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. And YAH said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations.
Mm-hmm.
This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold up. So whose covenant is it?
YAH's covenant.
So he's dictating.
Covenant, YAH.
YAH says it's his covenant, and he's dictating what the covenant consists of. So if anybody comes and tell you something different, don't hear them. Because YAH said this is my covenant, and I am dictating the covenant, not the other way around. All right? All right, go ahead.
Verse 11. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you.
That's good. Now hold for a second. So the circumcising the flesh is what? That's symbolic of what? What are we talking about today? The burnt offering. Right? That's symbolic of the burnt offering, because you circumcising, you are getting rid of the flesh. Right?
You're cutting away.
Right. All right, go ahead.
Verse 12, I believe. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or brought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house and he that is bought with money must needs be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
Uh-oh, what? So you see that? So he says, my covenant shall be in your flesh. Why is the covenant? Now, wait a minute. We got a contradiction, right? How can the covenant be in the flesh? Right? I'll take a crack at that.
You got to obey it. You got to have it in your heart and mind.
So if your flesh is not cut or burnt, then it's not a covenant. You're not in his covenant. You might be in a religion, but you're not in his covenant, because the flesh has to be cut. You can't operate the flesh and be in the covenant.
You're not walking in obedience to
Exactly.
his law, statutes, and commandments.
You in the flesh.
His covenant is
Right.
not in your flesh.
Right. That's right. Right. So if you're not obeying him, you are in the flesh and not in the covenant. Because the covenant is in the flesh. So when the flesh is removed, right, and the blood oozes out that covers the cut off flesh, right? That's what when Israel was in Egypt, Moses said, when I see the blood, right? So when you're in his covenant, he cuts the flesh away, he sees the blood.
It's specific.
So he said, he that is born in your house and he that is bought with money must be circumcised. Right? And he said, this is what? An everlasting covenant.
Not a covenant that's done away with, or it's for back then.
So whose covenant is it? According to scripture, not according to the words of me, not according to reverend or bishop or apostle or evangelist, pastor, whoever, but according to what the word says is YAH's covenant And he has detailed how the covenant should be carried out, and you can't change it. So if you change it, you're in the flesh, or you're not in the covenant. Right? What did you read? 14?
13.
Read 13? Okay. So he said, let me just reiterate here. Everyone that is bought with money, right? And Yahshua said what? Yahshua said, you've been purchased. So you're outside. By him being that seed, he purchased you. So since he purchased you, you have to be circumcised. The flesh has to die. You have to walk in obedience with what? Every word that Yah speaks. All right. Now, let's go back to Galatians. Okay, read verse 14, and we'll go back to Galatians.
And the uncircumcised man-child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant.
Oh, see that? This is not the Bible according to Kazak Yah, a.k.a. Charles Cotton, Bronte Kabod, a.k.a. Bronte Butler. This is the word of Yah. So when you detour away from what Yah said, you're disobedient. You're in the flesh, right? Now, notice what he says. The uncircumcised man whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. So when you don't follow through with what the Most High says, guess what? You cut off. Because he said you have broken whose covenant?
His covenant. His covenant.
Right? Now, there was a question I saw somewhere. Let me see. Hold on a second. The sister asked a question. She said, is this why Yah's word is like to a sword? Because it cuts, aka when one is convicted? Yep, we just said that, right? The word of Yah is quick, powerful, sharper than a two-edged sword. That's correct. Absolutely. Okay, now let's go back to Galatians. Galatians, what was it, 3 we were in?
Yep. 3 and 18 when we left off.
Okay, Galatians 3:18. All right, 3. All right.
We stopped at 17.
Stop at 17?
Read 17.
Read 17?
Yeah.
Okay. Just read 17 again, just for those that's just coming in and just for me to refresh my mind.
And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of Yah in Yahshua, the law which was 430 years after, cannot disannul, that it should make the promise of none effect. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of the promise, but Yah gave it to Abraham by promise.
Okay, stop for a second. Now, so we've already showed you that this is not talking about the law of Moses or the animal sacrifices, because all of that predated Moshe. So the law that came 430 years later, we're going to show you what that's talking about, right? All right. So what happened 430 years later? Israel came out of Egypt, right? 430 years, right? Okay. Let's confirm that, right? The sojourning, I think, in as a Galilee is at Exodus, right? How you spell? I can't spell sojourners.
J-A-U-R-N. You might gotta take that King James plus off.
Okay, Exodus, I got it. Okay, Shemoth or Exodus. chapter 12. That's where I want to go. Okay, chapter 12. Chapter 12 and verse 40, right? Just to confirm what he just said, right? So we're going to set you up. We're going to set myself up to prove that I'm wrong about what I'm about to say. And we're going to show it to you that we're going to prove to you that what I'm about to say is right. But right now, it's going to look like what I'm about to say is wrong. All right. So 430 years, right? Okay. So Exodus 12 and 40. All right. What does that say?
Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Mitzrayim was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass that all the hosts of YAH went out from the land of Mitzrayim. It is a night to be much observed unto YAH, for bringing them out of the land of Mitzrayim. This is that night of YAH to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations.
Okay. So just to confirm, Israel came out of Egypt, as it said, 430 years later, right? After the promise was made. Now, so one will believe that 430 years mean, oh, so what did Israel get when they came out of Egypt? They got the law, right? That's what one will believe, right? That's what we were taught. Huh? But we already debunked that up. We already proved to you that they already had the law, statutes, commandments, and burnt offering sacrifice before they came out of Egypt. So we know this can't be talking about that. It can't be. Because Noah had burnt offerings. Adam taught his son Cain and Abel. They offered sacrifices. After Noah, we can continue down through the line. We did a lesson on that, showing you other people offer sacrifices. Then you get to Abraham offering a burnt offering, right? Continue along. Isaac offered burnt offering, right? Yaakov offered burnt offering, right? They had different places. They named altars different places, right? Yahuwah, Yireh, Yahuwah, Shalom, Yahuwah, Sikkenu, right? On and on, right? All right. Now, so it's 430 years, right? Something came 430 years later. So as we open up each week in Exodus 19, we can concur that this is what happened, right? Because the Most High promised of the seed, not seeds, seed singular. So he promised through the seed of Abraham that he would do what? Bless all the nations. So who does the nation of Israel that came out of Egypt represent? The seed of Abraham, right? One seed, not multiple seeds, one seed, right? All right. Now, we go to Exodus chapter 19 and verse 1. We're going to see this is the covenant that was made 430 years later that was disannulled, right? All right. Exodus chapter 19, verse 1.
In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
For they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount. And Moshe went up unto YAH, and YAH called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I have did unto the Mitzrayim, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all the people, for all the earth is mine, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a Kodesh nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel.
See that? So that's what the covenant was. The covenant was that those people, one seed, would be what? The kingdom of priests. Right? Now we know afterwards, the following chapter, after the next chapter 20, after he gave the Decalogue, we call it Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, people saw thunder and lightning and heard the noise. Then they said, what? You speak to Moshe. We'll hear him. Right? So they did what? They forfeited the covenant of priesthood. Right? That's what came 430 years later, was the promise, the covenant that was to be carried through the chosen seed, the one seed to be the priest to all the sons of the earth. Right? How do we know that? Because last Shabbat we went to Jeremiah 31:31. Jeremiah 31:31 is going to come back into fruition when Israel is back in place, when he said, I'll write my laws in their hearts. Right? Why? Because you're going to be the priesthood. Right? You can't be the priesthood without the covenant. You can't be in the covenant without Yah's word, which is his law. You can't do away with his law because religion tells you we're not under the law no more. Right. All right. So comprehending that, now we see that this is the covenant that came 430 years later. Just to confirm that, let's go to go to Exodus chapter 20, the next chapter. Right. We're going to skip past the Decalogue. We're going to read down to we're going to start at verse 18. All right, verse 18. This is Exodus chapter 20, verse 18. All right.
And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moshe, Speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. And Moshe said unto the people, Fear not, for Yah is come to prove you, that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moshe drew near unto the thick darkness where Elohim was.
Now, what's often missed with that is this. Yah was drawing the whole nation to him. But because of fear, just like we do today, we reject the call to the priesthood and we look to who? The pastor. Something you said earlier. What the pastor said. The pastor said. The pastor said. See, Israel went from being a nation of priesthood to needing a pastor. See that? So the covenant that was made with them, they broke it, and so from that point forward they had to institute priests for the people who was to be the priest. Right? What happens when a man accepts Yahshua and is uncircumcised? Will he not be accepted because he is uncircumcised? According to the covenant, he has to be circumcised. Flesh, and I'm gonna show it to you in Tanakh. Circumcised in heart and flesh. Okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. Uh-oh, stomach around. Okay. 44:7. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Ezekiel 44, because see, we're talking about the shadow. So you gotta comprehend that when a person's heart is circumcised, they're going to want to fulfill the shadow, right? Which is the literal, right? So that's what it's talking about, right? 44, Ezekiel, your Catskill, Ezekiel 44:7. What does that say? Oh, okay.
In that ye have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my house, when ye